Okay, Shane. So moving on to other aspects of betting, you mentioned that you use automation. So is that bots or following a system, or what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so just once, something I suppose again that's evolved over time, in my punting journey, it's something reasonably new. Sort of found that you're sort of so engaged pre-race on market activity. So I've got Betfair, I've got a third-party application where I'm looking at, ladders to see where money's coming, where it's going, looking at another fixed a program that shows all the bookies in the fixed odds market, so you can see where the money's been early. Use Betfair to see where it's going late, and I was finding that I was sort of so singly focused on a couple of horses, and I'd look and I'd say, oh, this horse has won at $12. I've marked it 10. It's drifted late. I've missed some opportunities. So I started introducing a little bit of automation into my betting. So I'm able to look at any market, but obviously I focus on my own little patch, and I'm just putting in my rated prices. So with my automation, there's millions of different systems, I suppose, out there. So basically, my automation is that I look at a race. There's horses that I want to back at certain prices, or happy to back at certain prices, regardless of what the market's doing, or whether particularly on those horses that I've seen or I know, or know something of it from its trials or whatever else. And I think there might be some opportunities that the market won't like it late for no other reason than it's just a bit of an unknown quantity. So I sort of put those prices into the system, and with my automation, I upload those prices on the horses I want to back, or conversely, a horse that I want to lay. If I think it's going to be shorter than an X price, the bot will lay it automatically. Or if it's a horse I want to back over a certain price, the bot will back it automatically. And mine has a thing where the horse that I like in the race, if it wins, like I make it a chop out on my system. So that could be a horse that I've taken an early price on at 9 a.m. and it's going to start significantly shorter. So on Betfair with my automation, I just don't want to make that a losing result, because I've got it going for a result, on the fixed odds. So, and there's other races where I'm not too sure I want to bet in it, but if these horses meet this price late on Betfair, I want to take a position on them. And it does the business automatically. The money doesn't sit in the market. The bot just sits there and just picks those opportunities as they come up if someone's willing to lay a horse at that price. I found that to be a really successful way just to take positions on those horses at those prices that we spoke about that I feel are value propositions, because there's so much going on. And if particularly, when you're back at the track and you're looking at mounting yards and all those sorts of different things, easy to click in and turn it off and, not get caught. But at the same time, there's so many opportunities that are missed because you're just so focused on, all these other distractions as well at the track, for whatever it may be. So automation is something where I can just plug my prices into horses with my price ratings, and then if an opportunity comes to take advantage of a price, that's above my rated price plus a margin, the bot will do it automatically. And I touched on that earlier about looking at, my results and, seeing the good results, or the good margin with those horses winning were well above my rated price. That's where the margin is, obviously. So I just wanted to make sure that I was taking advantage of that, because I think I was just getting so greyed up and so frustrated when I'd see a horse win 50% above my rated price and I didn't have anything on it because it drifted late on Betfair because all the action was the favourite, which was the horse I was looking at, because that's the one I wanted to back at $2.20, and it was $2.20 and $1.90, and I'm looking at all different bookmakers trying to see where there's $2.10 available, or whatever, so that does, and it was just affecting my focus and I suppose a bit of mindset of just bringing some frustration into the game. So anything that I can do to try and get that frustration out of the game and those ebbs and flows of the emotion of the game is anything I can do to smooth that out. It's something I'm going to put some time into.
That leads me nicely on, because there's not many professional punters that I've spoken to that have included. They talk about losing runs and how they cope with it, but they've not actually mentioned mindfulness with and to listen to you talk earlier there, you could hear the frustration that sometimes be going on, your mind going 10 to the dozen because, so talk to us about mental well-being and mindfulness and how you cope with losing runs.
Yeah, so I think I made a decision a few years ago after a terrible run, is that if I lose my head, I'm going to lose all my money. It's as simple as that. If I'm betting emotionally, I'm going to lose. And when I say betting emotionally, that could be, chasing late in the day or late in the week or whatever it may be, or you're on a few day losing streak and you start chasing and I'm down, I don't know, let's just say I'm this for an example. So I'm down 20,000 this week, and it starts playing on your mind and you like this favorite, it's $2 and you've rated it $2, but if I have 10,000 on this, I'm only losing 10 for the week. I can deal with that. All those sorts of things come into your head. Conversely, I'm unbeatable today. I've backed the first 4 winners. This thing's a bit shorter than what I thought, but I think it's a moral anyway. I'm going to, I'm winning a heap anyway. Bugger it. I'm just going to double my stake. You lose your mind on the other side of the scale because the emotions are running high because you're winning. So, I come to the realization that if I lose my head, I'm going to lose my bank, basically. And it's very easy to do. You're on course. You've had a few winners. Beers start getting purchased, shared around the place. It's very easy to get sucked in, and lose your mind. So I've basically come to the conclusion that, what, if I lose my head, I'm going to lose my bank. So, I've got to invest in my mental health and well-being and start investing in me a little bit. So, I've made the investments of time into doing form and, attending the track and track work. I made the investment in databases, hardware and software to help me produce the results. I've got to start investing in myself. So, I spent a little bit of time and money in doing some work with some coaches and things like that. So found some good value in working with business coaches, not about business, even though, treat my betting like a business, but it's more about the emotional side of business. And this business of betting is not too dissimilar to any other business, really. We make investments and there are the good ones or bad ones. And it's just with racing that we know our outcome of that certain investment within about 90 seconds. It probably, so the swings of the highs and lows of the emotions are more frequent than what they would be if you're in a traditional bricks and mortar business and business was sort of, receding over a period of 6 months or growing over a period of 6 months, where with what we do, we feel that emotion every 90 seconds of a race event. So, I invested in a bit of that, done a lot of coaching to try and flatten the curve of emotion, I suppose, and just try and keep centered, meditation, and understanding the chemical side of the brain and the emotions and what triggers the highs and the lows, and just working on an understanding of what the triggers are and how to identify the triggers before they sort of hit you emotionally. So I've got a meditation app on my phone. I use that regularly. Take some time out in between races to try and calm down with breathing exercises, those sorts of things. It does get pretty lonely, sort of I'm locked in my dungeon here at home and, surrounded by computer screens, and it's very easy to get lost and lose time and track of where you are and what you're doing because you're so engrossed in the day's betting or whatever else. So just, there's those little things that I thought was well and truly worth of time and money to invest in understanding what causes these triggers. And then once you get a clear understanding, I spoke to psychologists and things like that as well, something that I've done in the past to help, reset and rebalance. Because I think it's just like any other business, really. I'm only going to be as good as how I manage myself and my time and my emotions and the energy that I put into certain things. And I just want to make sure that I'm approaching every betting opportunity. I try to be as clear as possible and just trying to have a clear mind and make sure that I'm not making any decisions based on emotion. We've got all the data and all the information and everything at our fingertips to make a conscious decision based on that. But when it comes to staking, I found that could you know, that's the part that you can manipulate a little bit based on emotion. Is your staking, you start to lose your confidence. You want to stake less. You're full of bravado and adrenaline because you're winning. You have a propensity to stake higher. So yeah, it's all about, just for me, it was just about investing in understanding the reactions and what triggers it, and then like I say, a bit of meditation and that sort of thing, and reading and studying about mindfulness and that sort of stuff as well. Keep some clarity around what we're doing. So I found it's been very beneficial.
Just a couple of questions left. So when you start, well, first of all, you talking, what sort of stakes are we talking? What sort of level do you play at?
What, as in
for what would be an average sort of bet for you?
It would depend on the price of the horse. Like, if you're betting to win 20,000 or something like that, it would be, if we're talking, the right setup. So I like to talk about it that way, as opposed to, talk about it as like to win an amount rather than, than staking, a certain level. But there's a probably, I'll probably work on 3 different levels, and a lot of it not most of it, some of it does come down to price, is price dependent based on what money you can get on and what time at what price. So the 9 o'clock price, if a horse is $10, and the minimum bet laws kicked in at 9 o'clock, and, I want to back that horse because I've rated it lower, I might have rated it $6 or something. There's enough bookmakers around the place in Australia where you can have, $100 across 6 or 8 different bookmakers. So straight away you can sort of get yourself set to win, 6 or 8,000 there. And then obviously, as that position changes throughout the day, the liquidity kicks in on Betfair as we get closer to the jump time. And then there's some decisions made from there on. The market intelligence, does have an impact on what I want to do. But there is horses, and there, I'm not sort of saying anything silly here, I don't think, when I talk about, there is horses that when the opportunity arises and when the liquidity is there in Betfair, and I can't see any reason whatsoever that this horse should be drifting. It's, it's one of those jump out horses or whatever else. I'm consistently, I'm still happy to sort of keep betting away, and depending on price. But we've had I think this year, pre-COVID, the 6 months pre-COVID, there would have been at least 4 or 5 horses that have come through those jump outs where you're sort of betting to win that 50,000 mark on Betfair based on, what you get on earlier in the day at certain prices. But the old thing about the bigger the price, the more you have on. That's I do work a little bit on that. I would much rather have 5,000 on a horse at $10 than 50,000 on a horse at even money.
Do you bet with the racecourse bookies?
Not locally. The bookie numbers are a sort of dwindling thing on course. And locally, the local bookmaker here, he does the jump outs with me on a Tuesday. So we're trying to find the same horses. So it's a bit of a gentleman's agreement that we're doing a bit of work together, and we probably shouldn't be betting against each other, because we're going to find ourselves wanting to be on the most of the time be on the same horses anyway. So look, and the game's changed a little, a fair bit. The way, getting the money on has changed a little bit, since I started. I found it easier earlier, and the longer I've been doing it, sort of the more difficult it has been. But there's ways and means around it. With the COVID thing in particular, there was the liquidity on Betfair was a hell of a lot stronger. I'm sure that the UK money was coming onto the Australian market because there's no races over there, and the liquidity here was enormous on some meetings. So that gives you plenty of opportunity. I'm certainly not the biggest or anything like that. I'm making an earn out of the game, and I can get enough on to make a good living out of it. And, I still think there's plenty of opportunities in the market. If you want to do the work to find those little edges.
Okay, so finally, a bit of advice back to those POMs you've been tucking up in that Australian race and they've been backing on blindly. What would be the best bit of advice you could give to a aspiring professional punter?
best bit of advice I could give. I suppose the best advice I could give is probably the best experience I had, and I felt that the best thing is your network. I think one of the things that I'm fortunate to have over here is like a network of punters, I suppose, that you can talk to. Not necessarily about asking them how they do it, but I suppose there's an empathy almost, or almost like a brotherhood of guys that do it professionally, and just not necessarily bouncing ideas off each other, but just the general conversation about all things racing, whys, hows of different horses or different races or whatever else. Like I say, not necessarily chewing the fat, but I think it's important to have someone to talk to, because it can be very lonely. So I feel like a network is good, is a good thing to have, and that's just by reaching out and talking to people. I also think that there's plenty of opportunity out there. Like if you get, Google any type of hundreds of podcasts, series like this that you guys are doing, and just absorbing that information. It's not about, I don't listen to other punters or in podcasts and listen and watch shows to get secrets of how they do the form, but it's just their processes. You find a way if you find a way to do the form, or you understand racing or wagering, you can find an edge and an earn. That's great. That's one part of it, but being able to sustain it for a long period of time is really difficult, because it can be so lonely. So, my advice would be is to get a good network of people that you can talk to, and certainly reach out to, to other peers in the industry, and, do as much research as you can, and listen to other people and read books about how other people have gone about it and their experiences. I listen to a lot of other punters about their process, more so than what they're exactly doing or how, but just like how their week looks, how their days look, how they do their reviews, their previews, all types of little things like that, which can make life easier. I keep coming back to it, but it can be a lonely game, and it's good to feed the mind, do some, understand how other people do it and that sort of thing. That would be a key thing that I would tell anyone to do for sure.
Well, brilliant, Shane. It's been very, very interesting talking to you. Thanks ever so much for giving your time up, and
No problem.
good luck in the future.
Thanks very much.
Punting.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.